It's a movie about a writer, so I'm always quick to point out that John McNamara wrote a great screenplay, and his connection to what Trumbo was about was so total, and it lasted for years. He optioned the book himself, he worked on it for years, and it became the beacon for all the cast, for me, for Brian, and I think the poetry of it was that he found a way to take such a complex set of ideas and a very complex history of 13 years, thousands of people who were involved in this stuff or affected by it, and distill it down to be a very understandable and relatable story through the point of view of this one guy. That's good writing. That final speech is very moving to me. It is almost verbatim what he said in his WGA Laurel Awards, which was basically the WGA trying to make it up to him that they had not backed him during the blacklist, which was amazing that he was willing to say, such a brave thing to say, there were no heroes and no villains, there were only victims of this system, you know, and he could have been so much angrier and so much blame-oriented. Instead, he thanked the WGA because they were very cool to help make it right, and he thanked all the people who had fought for all the principles with him. But he said, don't condemn someone new in the name of this and repeat the mistake they made when they condemned me. I love that choice of casting. I must say, I pat all of us who were involved in that choice on the back, because Louis C.K. playing the hardliner, you know, playing the guy who was righteous enough that he could bust Trumbo for his hypocrisy, which was real in some cases. Trumbo was a driven, principled guy, but he lived a very, pretty nice life and had conflicting ideas. And so the two of them, when Louis C.K. in a way becomes his conscience and affects Trumbo and gets Trumbo to realize he's right, but still it breaks them apart. It's such a great bit of. Louis C.K. is a really good dramatic actor and hilarious, so it was nice to have. Is so strong and so herself kind of. There's such a rich portrayal of a very zealous woman who, Hedda Hopper was an interesting lady with all her great hats and her great clothes and very charming and sweet, but a really tough person when it came to defending her way of life and what she saw as to defend our country against the threats. But that she thought that Americans were naive enough to be sort of hypnotized by mainstream American movies into being more left-wing. It was an amazing thing to portray, and yet 60% of Americans thought World War III had already started by 1950. So she was tapped into a real populist trend, and so I think Helen Mirren was amazing in capturing all that complexity. I love that he was sort of just so ostracized, and the whole family is kind of squeezed down into this little bubble of secrecy, and he's hunkered into his bathtub having to write his way out of jail. I mean, literally write his way out of movie jail, figuratively, not literally, figuratively writing his way out of movie jail, because that's what he had. That was his superpower. And I love that part of the story, that he and other writers just decided, we're not going to quit. We're going to write under anybody else's names, and we're going to write the best screenplays possible. And he would say to studios, if their screenplay isn't good enough, I'll rewrite it. And he never slept. He took pills to stay up, drank alcohol to go to sleep, and generated some great work. Wins 2 Academy Awards for Roman Holiday, my new favorite Trumbo film, because I hadn't ever seen it. It's a beautiful film, the brave one, Boy and His Bull, and then writes Spartacus.
Spartacus wasn't bad.
Spartacus is a great film. So I was really moved by that ability to write your way out of that kind of a horrific predicament. The King brothers were the accidental heroes. made this great deal with Trumbo because they could pay him almost nothing. He was a great writer. He was the highest paid screenwriter in '47. They're paying him nothing, like compared to what he was making. And he's writing schlocky movies for them, you know, jungle movies and prison movies and gangster movies. And he ends up writing The Brave One for them. And suddenly their status in town elevates so quickly. And they were not particularly, you know, political, but they were willing to back Trumbo. And there's that. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Frank King, John Goodman, the great John Goodman, thank you, John Goodman, for doing this, and Stephen Root, who plays his brother. But John Goodman takes on that union leader who wants to squash Trumbo and says, we're not going to be friends, and pulls out the baseball bat. And it's like, it's one of the great, I'm really, really happy with the way that worked out. The injustice was so unbelievable, and it took someone like John Goodman's character, Frank King, to say, I'm just not going to take this. He didn't care. He didn't have anything to prove to anybody. He wasn't going to join the group of studios that got involved in the blacklist because he said, I'll hire bums and hookers. I don't care. You can take the unions and do whatever you want, but you're not going to shut me down, and you're not going to shut down my friend Dalton Trumbo, who's a great writer. And he was willing to take on the union guy, so that was pretty amazing.